Outlook Training, Unit 4, Managing Commitments to Enable a Sense of Achievement. In Unit 4, we're going to look at the following areas. We're going to describe the role of the calendar in the planning process. We're going to look at how to schedule time for important projects and tasks, how to accurately and efficiently schedule appointments and meetings. We want you to be able to anticipate and allow for unplanned events and interruptions in your day, and how to use the calendar to organize your time, plan your day, and maintain a work-life balance. In order to achieve the ability to manage your calendar, we're going to take a look at some best practices. The first best practice we're going to talk about is to make your Outlook calendar the one-stop shop to capture all fixed time commitments. Those are the things that you need to put on your calendar that have a specific start and end date and time, and that you have to do at a specific time. We don't want you to use multiple calendars, so if you use a personal calendar or use a calendar to schedule your kids' activities, we want you to put all of those things on one calendar so that you really have a good sense of what your full day looks like. We want you to use the calendar to capture time-sensitive details such as meetings and appointments. We don't use the calendar as a to-do list. So the things that are being plugged on your calendar are things that, again, need to be done at a specific date, time. Things that appear on your to-do list have some flexibility at when you complete them. You want to schedule time in your calendar for important projects and tasks and follow-up actions. Make sure you block off time so you can focus on planned tasks. We want to be realistic when planning meeting times. It's better to add a buffer than to underschedule. You want to develop your agenda first so you know how long the meeting should be and who needs to be invited. So when you're planning a meeting and planning that to put that on your calendar, you really need to give some thought of what that will look like before that is plunked on there. You want to also make sure that you block off travel time as appropriate for appointments. Often we have to travel away from work, and if we book appointments butted up against each other and don't plan for travel time, you're going to probably not arrive to many things on time. So you have a better understanding of your overall availability. When scheduling or accepting a meeting, create a task to remind you to prepare prior to the meeting. Meetings, you want all meetings to be effective, and in order to be effective, you need to be well prepared. So if you put in tasks ahead of that meeting time, you can really be an active participant in those meetings and make valuable use of that time. We want to schedule regular times to manage our emails. We've now shut off all notifications so that those emails aren't interrupting you throughout the day, but you do want to make sure that you set aside some times that work for your schedule to check that inbox. We want to continue to use the 4 Ds and clear our inbox completely on each visit. Create reoccurring appointments and events for regular meetings. Things that you can think about as recurring all-day events, things like birthdays and anniversaries, so you never forget those things again. Put them on your calendar, and there's no need to remember it. It'll show up on there each year. You might have other things like repeating staff meetings. Maybe you have a child's soccer practice or a sporting event that happens on a certain night. That certainly can be blocked off as time on your calendar on a reoccurring basis. Leave time on your calendar for unexpected or unplanned activity. Leave appropriate time for your job requirements. So there certainly is going to be unplanned things that happen in your day, so you want to make sure that there is some slots of time available to handle some of those activities. And finally, you want to plan 10 minutes at the end of each day to plan for tomorrow. This daily planning best practice, you want to make sure that you're ready to go for the next day. And so it's nice to wrap things up in the last 10 minutes of the day to make sure you have a fresh start. So when we start to think about planning out our day, we want to think about what our day looks like and when we're most productive throughout the day. The best managers are accurate in estimating how much time a task or meeting will take. On the other hand, one of the characteristics of a poor manager is often that they nearly always underestimate how long something will take. They mentally prepare for about 12 hours of work each morning, and as a result, they can see the clock as the enemy. They're always running behind. They're always late. That's setting themselves up for failure. You have to start to think about it's not the hours that you put into your work that's important. It's the work that you put in the hours. So you should think a little bit about when you're at your best. When you're planning meetings or appointments or time for important project work, you should consider what your natural biorhythm is. Biorhythm is a reoccurring cycle of biological processes that affect our own emotional, intellectual, and physical activity. To put it in layman's terms, some of us are morning people, some of us are afternoon people, and so you have to think about which one of those best describes you. And maybe it's multiple times throughout the day where you feel like you have a boost or you feel very productive. You want to think about that. So what we're going to do is on this graph below, I'd like you just to think about plotting out for yourself where you feel that you're most productive, and then where you feel that maybe there's some lulls in the day where you're feeling a little less productive or a little sluggish. So once you've done that, what you want to look at is, of course, if you, for example, are a morning person and you're feeling very productive when you first arrive at work, that's probably not the best time to invest in looking at emails and sorting through your inbox. You're probably going to want to spend the time at that point in your day working on any projects that require focus or tasks, because that's when you're going to be at your best. So give that some thought when you're planning out your calendar. Okay. The calendar and Outlook is where you'll manage appointments and fixed time commitments. We recommend that you switch between the month or week view, providing the big picture or macro view, and the day view, providing the daily or micro view. When scheduling meetings or appointments, consider using the month view to get a better overview of your available time. When you're finished with your planning, return back to the day view. So in order to do that in your calendar, you first of all will go to your calendar here at the bottom of the screen and make sure you're on that. And you can see your calendar listed there. If I go up to the View tab at the top of the screen here, I can pick a number of different options here. So currently I'm on the day view. It's showing one day. You certainly can take a look at work week, which is considered Monday to Friday. You also could take a look at the week, which would be a Sunday to Saturday. And then finally, you could also take a look at the month view. So depending on what you're trying to schedule, each one of those might provide a better overview of what you're looking for. I normally return back to the day view once I've done all my planning. There are 3 types of calendar items: appointments, events, and meetings. Again, these are your fixed activities that'll appear in your calendar. So these are the items described. An appointment is a time blocked in your calendar for your own activities. An event is an appointment whose duration has been set as an all-day event. And these events will automatically default as free, but it'll show for the full day. And finally, meeting is an appointment where you have other people invited. We're going to look at marking an event on our calendar. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the date that the event is occurring. So you can do that by choosing a date on the calendar on the left-hand side. You certainly can scroll to different months or pick the current month and date that you're in. And once I have that particular date highlighted, you'll see that that's now here in my calendar. In the top left-hand corner, we're going to click on New Appointment. And once the dialog box opens, we're going to, in the title, put a subject of what this particular event might be. So I'm going to say that on this particular day, there is a party at Anne's. And so what you can do is you can see here, there's a start time and there's an end time. But when we're doing an event, this is something that I plan to be at for the full day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check off all day. And when I do that, what automatically happens is up here in options, it automatically shows me as free. So when somebody was looking to see whether or not I was available on that particular day, if I leave this as free, it's going to look like I'm available for bookings. If I'd like to say that no, I'm not available, I'm either busy or out of office, it'll then show others that that wouldn't be an appropriate time to book a meeting or an appointment because I'm not available at that time. So I'm going to switch this to out of office. You can then put in a location. So if you know what location that's going to be at, so it's going to be at Anne's house. And what we're going to do is we're going to click Save and Close once we have all the information listed. So now I can see on that particular day that it's listed that I have that party at Anne's house, and you can see that it's now grayed out because I've said that I'm going to be away or not available at that time. We're going to look at scheduling a meeting. The meeting request feature is an efficient way to schedule meetings with others without the hassle of necessarily playing phone tag and trying to figure out what is an optimal time to hold that meeting. It's a great way to quickly set up a time and a place for people to get together and to get responses. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Home tab in our calendar, and we're going to click on New Meeting here. And so you can, once you've clicked on the new meeting, you can certainly type in what your meeting might be about. Okay. What you can then do is you can click on who you would like to invite to this meeting. And this can be done with two different options. There's a required at the meeting and there's an optional. There's a number of different ways that you definitely can add people. If you want to type in each individual person's email address, that's one way. You also can use your address book to load in contacts that are in those address books. So I'm going to click on the required button and get into the address books. And I'm going to pick a few people that I'm going to invite. And I'm going to just double click on a few of these people. And so that we can get this sent out. All right. So there's my few people I'm going to invite to this particular meeting. You can pick what date you're planning on holding this, what time you would like the meeting to start. You can also pick the end date. So typically for a meeting, it would be the same day, and the approximate duration of how long you believe this meeting will take place. We're currently on Windows 365, and so there's the option of holding virtual meetings using Microsoft Teams. This particular meeting is one that I'm not going to be offering virtually, so I am going to click off Don't Host Online so that it'll remove all of the virtual information. And I'm going to put that it's going to be in a particular location so that everyone knows where that might be. Oops. Meeting room 1. And then there's optional pieces that you can do to add in information in the notes section, which we're going to cover in a little bit more detail in the next section. You can add attachments and links to make the meeting invite more thorough and so that people can prepare for what the topic might be. All right. So once we've got that ready to go, we can click on send. What happens when you click send is Outlook sends the invitation to each person you've invited. Each participant will receive an email invitation, which they can accept, decline, or accept as tentative. Outlook will notify you as the meeting organizer of their responses. If they accept or tentatively accept, Outlook marks the meeting onto their calendars. To check the status of invitations at a later date, you can open the meeting appointment and then click on the tracking tab to view the individual responses. So I'm going to click on send here, and you'll see that I will have a meeting show up on my calendar. If I'd like to see what that meeting's all about, maybe who's invited, I can certainly double click on it on my calendar and it'll open that meeting back up and I can see who it is, when it is. If there's information down here, then it certainly will show up. If you have an organization where most people are using their calendar, there is a way to check scheduling to see that I'm picking an optimal time for the meeting. So I'm just going to click on this existing meeting and I'm going to go to Scheduling Assistant up here at the top. What that does is it shows the available time of each of the individuals in my grouping for this meeting. So you can see on the day before that at the top here there's a line marked out that's solid. That means that somebody in this grouping is busy during that period of time. You can also see this meeting that has now been booked, that this has now got a solid line because we booked a meeting in that time. But let's say that we needed to, there was somebody who was unable to attend and we needed to reschedule. You certainly could scroll and see all the different times that are available for each of these individuals. You see all of these times are available because there's no colored line at the top here. But you also could use something called auto pick here in the top left-hand corner, which will pick the next available time and date that all of these individuals are available. So if I click on the required people into auto pick, what it'll do is it'll pick another time on another date where they're first available. If I find that, Monday morning, maybe at 8 a.m. maybe wouldn't be a good time, I can do it again and it'll pick the next available time until I find an appropriate time that would work for all of the people that are involved in that particular meeting. The next part we're going to look at is adding additional information to a meeting calendar invitation. And sometimes this is important both for the people participating in the meeting and for the person or the host that's scheduling the meeting to make sure that if there's any prep work or resource material that the meeting will include is put in the calendar invite so that everybody has access to that before they attend. So I currently have a calendar item open here, and we're going to look at attaching a file into this particular item. So this area down here where it's white is basically the notes section. And so you can add type notes in there. You can also add items like files and hyperlinks, which we're going to show you how to do both of those. So you can really even include a message for people that are attending the meeting. So please review reports prior to the meeting and provide. Oops, October 1st. Okay, so that's just some directions to the people that might be attending this meeting, but I'm also going to attach a file. So if I go up here to the left-hand corner, there is actually an icon under Insert. So we're going to go Insert, and then we're going to go Attach File. And I'm going to attach on, I'm just going to, for example, say that this is maybe a report that I need them to look at. It's an Excel file. You certainly can browse your PC to find any files that are housed on your computer. So you would open it up and you can find any of your files that would be located on your own or on the shared drive. So, and find those, and you just click on it and you can see that it attaches here under the meeting information. But let's say I also want to provide a link to a particular website, or I want them to be aware of a certain site that I would like them to review. Please read content on website listed. All right, so we're going to add a link to do that. So same thing, there's an insert, and then here at the top, there is an option to add links. So we're going to click on that. And when we go to the very bottom of this particular list, you can see there is insert link. And so there's a number of different ways you could insert a link to a document. What we're going to do is we're actually going to insert a link to a website. And so you can see right now my cursor is in what's called an address bar. And so I certainly could type in, if I knew what the website was. I'm just going to type in you could copy and paste a link off a web browser. You can see at the top here, the text to display. I'm not going to put the website there. I'll put actually what it is. So then when I say okay, what's going to happen is a link is going to appear now in my calendar item. And when I hover my cursor over it, it's going to show you a shortcut to go directly to that website. So when I press Control and click, what it's going to do is it's going to go to the Valley View Co-op website because that's the link that I have provided in that particular hyperlink. You could also have it go certainly to a web page. There can be a number of different ways that you would look at that. So that is adding a hyperlink and an attachment. So often when we have a calendar invite or a meeting booked, there's quite often information or things that we need to prepare before we attend the meeting. And so this fixed commitment has a flexible task or jobs that need to be done, which we can create a task list to appear on our to-do list of items that we need to address before we attend. So in order to do that, I have a meeting here, and as we had looked at before, this particular meeting, there was a couple things that this organizer had asked to be done. Things like review the reports prior to the meeting and provide an analysis before October 1st, and then we also had to read contents on a website. So what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we have a task ready to go before October 1st, because those things need to be done before then. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually right-click on the calendar item, and I'm going to go over to my tasks, and you can see that plus sign is on my current cursor. And when I release, I get a few options. And so I am going to pick the option to copy here as a task with an attachment, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's going to create a task. And now you'll see that there's the calendar item is in here, that review reports for period 1. And it's basically dumped in the title from the calendar item into my subject line. But I am going to review the reports, but maybe it could be a review report, prepare analysis. And this had to be done by, the meeting is on October 1st, so we probably want to have it done the day before. We're going to have it starting as of today's date. And if I wanted to have a reminder, if it's something I think I'm maybe going to forget, then I could certainly put a reminder on that it will actually give me a pop-up to say, hey, make sure you review this report and provide an analysis. something that is, not due on the date that it starts is a normal priority task. And so I also can make notes in here if I have certain things. Maybe I need to pull previous month's reports and email Jen analysis before meeting, just so that I have some notes on what exactly I was supposed to be doing. And I'm going to just flip this to high so you can see it when it goes on the task list, but it should be a normal one. So we're going to go here and then we're going to say save. And what you'll see happen is it now appears over here on my task list of things I need to do. So it's a way to make sure that you're prepped and ready for the meeting. The other piece you can use on your calendar with your tasks, if you have tasks on your list here that you think that you need to have a fixed dedicated time to complete, you certainly can take the tasks over here and drag and drop them onto your calendar. And you could create a time where you're going to do that particular task. But I just caution, make sure that you are actually doing it on that time period if you're putting on your calendar, and it still remains on your task list. So if something did happen that you didn't complete it, it doesn't fall off until you actually action those items and say mark complete. So you'd actually have to say you were done that particular item before it would fall off your task list. But it certainly is a nice way to keep track of things. So in order to save yourself from having to enter the same regularly scheduled events, like for example, a monthly meeting, we're going to talk about how you can use the reoccurrence button on the appointment form. And so it'll put it on your calendar on a repeat basis for that particular appointment or meeting. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick, a date and a time where we have a similar thing happening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this time just to show you a different way. So when you right click, a menu comes up and I'm going to click on a new appointment. And so it starts out very just like we did for our other appointments. Class at Y. Okay, so this particular, every Saturday, I'm going to say that I have an exercise class at the Y, and I want to make sure that that's on my calendar every week. So this particular class takes place from 10 until 11 a.m. I can put what the location is, so if it's YMCA. And then you'll see along here, there is actually a hyperlink that says make recurring. So we're going to click on that guy. And when we click on that, it's going to give us some options to make this happen over and over again on our calendar. So you can see that it captured what I had put in for my appointment time, that it's from 10 until 11. It's a 1-hour duration. The next section talks about recurrence pattern. So there's a number of different patterns you can have. Daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly as some of the options. And then within each option, there's a number of other options you can pick. So for this particular calendar item, it is a weekly event. It's going to occur one time each week on a Saturday. And then you can see that there's a range of dates that I can pick. So let's say that this is something that's only happening for a month's time. So it's only happening during the month of October. So you can see it starts on October 1st, and I'm going to want to end it on October, I'm assuming it's probably October 29th. And so that would be the month of October. And so this is going to appear every Saturday during the month of October. There's other options. You can say to end after a certain number of occurrences, or you can select no end date at all. It's something that goes on forever. And I'm going to say okay. And so then when I say okay, you can see that it lists what I've selected for the reoccurrence and the other information. I'm going to say save and close. And so now when I look at Saturday, the 1st, you can see it's on that day. And then when I look at the 8th, same thing, and so on. But then when you get to November 5th, it no longer appears. So that's one way that you can certainly make sure that you have items captured that happen on a regular occurrence, and so that you don't have to keep putting those in separately. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is sharing our calendar. Sharing your calendar can be a great way to communicate with your coworkers. Now they can see your schedule without having to interrupt you and ask all the time. You can share a folder by giving someone permission to access that folder. You can then control the level of access they get. For example, you may want coworkers to be able to view your calendar, but you might not want to make it so that they can change appointments or edit your calendar. So we're going to show you how to do that. So we're on the calendar right now, and you can see at the top there's Manage Calendars. And so I'm going to click on Share Calendar. And it's going to drop down any available calendars I have. And so you want to select the calendar under your particular login information. And so I'm going to click on that. And when I do that, there is a number of tabs that open up. And so we're going to go over to the Permissions tab. And the Permissions tab is going to show all the different people that I've shared my calendar with and their different permission levels. And so there's a number of different ways that we can permit people to look at our information. What we're going to do is we're going to add someone new. Just going to find maybe somebody I haven't added before. And I'm just going to double click on them. This is from your contact book. So pretty much anybody who's in your contact book you can add. And what I can see is that I've added this particular Bins and Burden. And right now they can view all my details. And so what that means is they can see the subject line, they can see where my appointments and my items on my calendar are, but they could also go into that particular item and see all the details. Remember how we attached attachments and we made notes, and so sometimes you don't want everyone to be able to see all that information. The other options can view titles and locations. So just like you can kind of see here on the side, that's what that would look like, is that they can see what you put in that title section and where that location is. Or you can also just select can view when I'm busy. So in these periods where I have something booked, it would just list busy here. So depending on who it is in the organization and how much detail they need, you can certainly choose what that looks like. This particular individual or this email would just need to know if I'm busy or not. They wouldn't need to know any other details. So I'm going to select that permission. And when I click apply, what will happen is an invite will go to that email recipient to say that I have shared my calendar with them and they can accept that. It also then will prompt if they would also like to share their calendar with me. So there's a couple ways that a couple things that then does. So I would click apply here. I'm going to click cancel in this case because I'm not going to do that. The second way you could do this is actually you can request to add a calendar. So that's where you would actually ask an individual directly to share their calendar with you. So you can pick from the address book an individual, and it would then send a request to them without having to share your own calendar. So those are two options. It certainly is nice to be able to set up appointments and that way. The last item I'm going to talk about is finally about, because we would be sharing some of our calendar items, and many of you will use one calendar for everything, for both business and for your personal items. There is a handy tool that allows you to have some privacy for those personal appointments. So I'm just going to quickly create a personal appointment. Let's say I have a haircut, or actually I have a doctor's appointment. So I don't want everybody to know that I have a doctor's appointment. So what I can do is I can actually select that this is a private appointment. And there's two ways you can do that. There is an option at the top here under appointment. You could click private. And what you'll see will happen is a little lock will appear beside that particular calendar item. That means now when people open or see your shared calendar, it's just going to show that you're busy in that section, and it's not going to give any other details. You can also do this by right-clicking on this calendar item, and it'll give you a drop-down menu just like that, and you can click private and click it on and off. So there, it's taken it off, and I put it back on. The other way that I typically will identify private versus or personal versus business appointments is I do use the categories option. So we talked about this previously in one of the previous units about using categories. So if I would like to do that, basically when I click on that particular appointment, you can see up here at the top, there's the categorize. And so we had talked about how you could set your categories. I've got some created here already, and there is one that I have labeled personal. And so I use that color to identify that those are personal items on my calendar. And so it's a visual way to see exactly what I have going on for the day. The last item I want to discuss is about viewing multiple calendars at one time. So sometimes it's nice, typically when you're scheduling appointments or, seeing what other people's schedules are looking like. It's convenient to be able to look at that all together. And so I have created a number of my own personal calendars. So you can see here on the left-hand side, these are all calendars that I've created to divide out some of my work that I have to do. But there's also other calendars, which will show individuals who have shared their calendar with me. And so I can pull those up to see them all at the same time. I'm just going to use some of my own personal so you can take a look at what that looks like. So you can pull up as many as you want. As you pull up more, it gets a little more difficult to look at, but you certainly can then see across the way what's going on. You can certainly see how busy different things are. So it's another way to take a look at what people's calendar time frames look like. I had said that I have created a few of my own. Sometimes I like to keep things off of my own personal calendar so I have a good idea what my day looks like, but there's items that I need to keep track of. For example, things like training, if I have birthdays and different dates that are coming up, I might store those on a separate calendar. And so if you'd like to create your own, all you do is, I've picked them all. You would just right click on my calendars. There's an option to add a new calendar, and you would just name it as you felt appropriate. So I right clicked, add new calendar. And then you can create one of your own. So it is helpful in some ways as well. So that brings us to the end of Unit 4, managing your time using your calendar. We went through a number of different ways that the calendar can be used to help you increase your productivity and keep things on track. Just a reminder to remember that things going into your calendar are fixed items, things that have a specific time and date that they need to be done, and items that don't have a little bit more flexibility, or things that are tasks and should appear on your to-do list.